Yes, that is right. The Steam Deck is getting a new critical feature, and it's one that we've been waiting for a long time. It's been on the consoles like Xbox Series and PlayStation 5, even the Nintendo Switch, but it has not been available on the Steam Deck, at least up to this point. So in that way, yeah, it's one that I've been asking for, one that I've been predicting, and one that we're finally close to seeing on the Steam Deck. So I'm going to tell you all about that, but there are some other nice features I want to tell you about as well, especially now that SteamOS 3.6 is out in preview and even in beta. We're going to see some new features that Valve is pumping out, and they look quite exciting, and maybe they even hint at something bigger. I know I haven't been around to talk about SteamOS 3.6, but I feel like most people are not seeing what Valve is hinting at with SteamOS 3.6, so I still want to talk about that at least a little bit. More important though, we did learn about some awesome ports to PC, one of which should play very well in the deck, and the other, well, we're not so sure yet. And of course, it's a bit of Attack of the Clones with all the PC handhelds that have been announced or leaked recently. Of course, we have the ROG Ally X, but maybe even the Lenovo Legion Go Lite. We're going to take a quick look at some of the most interesting ones so that you know what to keep on your radar. All right, we're going to jump right in with an upcoming Steam Deck feature that I have been waiting for. Of course, I'm talking about clip recording. Now, clip recording, like I said, is available on consoles like Xbox, PlayStation, even Switch obviously already have this. The thing for those is that they either work with background recording or recording what's about to happen. I'm going to focus on background recording. Recording what's about to happen is a little easier to explain, right? You just press the record button and it starts recording from this point forth. But background recording is where it is recording the previous 30 seconds, 10 minutes, 1 hour, whatever. It's recording a certain amount of time in a buffer, and then when you decide that you want to save that recording, you save it and you select the amount of time you want to save, and it will save that to your disk. Now for PS5, you can save up to the last hour of gameplay, which is pretty amazing. I think Xbox Series, I don't have an Xbox Series S or X, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I believe that by default, it saves the last 30 to 60 seconds unless you have an external drive. Once you have an external drive, I think that number goes way up, maybe up to the hour like PS5. And then finally the Switch, it's a little bit different. It's a Switch, it's portable, and you know, it's a lot lower powered than those, so it caps out at a maximum of the last 30 seconds. But honestly, even those 30 seconds is incredibly valuable and something I wish was available on the Steam Deck. Now, like I alluded to just now, there is some overhead with this feature. If you're recording in the background, that may impact performance of some games, so that is a consideration that Valve must have had when making the Steam Deck. That's why probably Steam Deck doesn't officially have this feature, at least not to this point. But Steam Deck does have this feature if you mod your Steam Deck using the plugin loader called Decky Loader. Decky Loader, of course, makes it easy to mod your Steam Deck with different functionality. For example, you can install a plugin that makes it easier to install or manage non-Steam games. You can install a plugin to see data about games from howlongtobeat.com or ProtonDB, so you can get all of this data from external sites outside of Steam and still see that inside of your Steam Deck. And finally, you can install a plugin on Decky Loader that may just change or add functionality, like in this case, Decky Recorder. Decky Recorder is a plugin that allows you to start a recording. That means that once you press a button, it's going to start recording from here forth. When you click save, it'll be done. But you can also enable replay mode, which is a lot like background recording, which I was just speaking about. By default, this is set to 30 seconds, so it's going to keep a rolling buffer of the last 30 seconds of gameplay, but you have other options in Decky Recorder up to 5 minutes. So you can do 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minute, or 5 minutes. This is my favorite Decky plugin, but I know a lot of people prefer not to mod at all. And honestly, I've been waiting for an official solution. Valve has a habit of looking to the community for what are the most popular modifications that people are making to their Steam Deck and seeing if that's something that they can incorporate into the official SteamOS, Steam Client, or Steam Deck firmware. So here is where clip recording comes in. This news comes courtesy of Pavel Jundik, aka the X-Paul. Pavel Jundik is the proprietor of SteamDB.info, which basically data mines Steam for a lot of information about Steam games and just the Steam client itself. Based on this, Pavel has previously shared that Valve is working on a clip recording feature back in December 2023, but honestly there was just too little information at the time. Now we have quite a bit more information thanks to some images that he recently newly discovered. We can see that background recording is available. It seems like it's at least up to 20 minutes. It may go even further than that. And then from there, you can clip to anywhere in that buffer if you want a smaller portion of that. There are also these timeline markers available here. They seem to be game specific. Perhaps you can get these markers through the points shop. And one game here, for example, you're riding a dragon and the markers include stones and magic related icons like gems and scrolls. And then there's another where it's a shooter and the iconography is like a skull, a grenade, a jet. So the iconography really matches the game. That makes me think that these are going to be things that are supported by the game itself, or maybe in point shop or something like that. And then importantly is sharing your videos. So you're going to be able to share these like screenshots and other things like that. So you can send these via direct message to one of your friends. You can save this file locally in your local file system. You can even share it to Reddit, Discord, Instagram, X, and other social media. These images that Pavel discovered here are probably going to be part of a blog post explaining this feature. So it kind of feels like they're pretty far along in developing this feature. And maybe that means that this is going to be available to the Steam Deck pretty soon. And in fact, it's unclear if this is going to be limited to the Steam Deck or if it will also be available on just traditional PC gaming too. I would presume the latter. It's going to be available across everything, especially based on the UI that you see in these images. And honestly, I'm really just glad to see that this is coming along quite nicely. Again, it seems like it's possibly close to release. This is going to be a big feature when it finally does come to the Steam and to the Steam Deck. So let me know if you're excited about this down in the comments. I know I am. All right. Let's talk about another feature. There was a Steam client beta that was released on May 28th and a Steam Deck beta that was released on May 28th as well. Now it shows battery information for connected Bluetooth devices under settings, Bluetooth in the quick access menu. This is pretty cool that you can now see the battery. I have AirPods that I connect to my Steam Deck. You may have maybe a keyboard or a mouse. So it is nice and very convenient to be able to see the battery that's remaining on these devices. SteamOS 3.6 preview also brought what I consider a pretty critical feature. They brought compatibility with HDMI CEC features. If you've ever resumed your console like an Xbox Series or PlayStation 5 and that turns on your TV, that's because it's utilizing HDMI CEC features, which Valve have now implemented in SteamOS 3.6 preview. Now, this hasn't worked for me consistently. When I tried this, I updated the firmware on the Steam Deck dock and I updated the Steam Deck. And so it does work occasionally, but it doesn't work every time I resume the Steam Deck. So this may have some more kinks to work out, but I think that this feature hints at a lot more. I think that something like this and the Wake on Bluetooth that Valve is implementing here is something that a Steam Deck console or a Steam machine would benefit from greatly. I think if Valve is doing this, they may be doing some work behind the scenes to prepare a Steam Deck console or a Steam machine. Maybe that comes out later this year, maybe it comes out next year, maybe it's Valve time. Maybe it doesn't come out at all, but it does seem like it's something they're working on, at least based on this. Would you buy a Steam Deck console? Let's say it's $500 and it's as powerful as a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X. Is that something you would consider buying? I think I would. Let me know what you think. Finally, in terms of updates to the Steam Deck, I do want to issue a PSA. This is something that has existed for some time, but I recently became a victim to it. If you enable Wake Movie in the Steam Deck settings, you may have problems with sleep and resume. Every time I resumed when I had Wake Movie enabled, it was sending inputs to the OS and not to the game, and so I would have to restart the Steam Deck or shut it down and bring it back up. So do not enable Wake Movie. That is my PSA. You should have a much better time if you don't do that. All right, next I want to talk about a couple of games that have been long awaited for the Steam Deck and really the PC. The first one is God of War Ragnarok. We finally know that God of War Ragnarok is coming to PC. A lot of people could have seen that coming, but yeah, now we have a full trailer and even a release date. So this was announced during the PlayStation State of Play, and the release date is September 19th, later this year, so just a couple of months away. That game, from a graphical point of view and a performance point of view, should be playable on the Steam Deck, but it does have one big problem, and that's that it does in fact require a PlayStation Network account. The notice on the Steam page does say PlayStation Network account required, subject to PlayStation terms and services and user agreement. Now, this may cause an issue with Steam Deck compatibility. We did see that with Ghost of Tsushima when you try to enable the login. So the fact that it's required here could break Steam Deck compatibility. I'm hopeful that both Valve and Sony are working towards making sure that this game is in fact compatible on the Steam Deck. So we'll keep a close eye on that and really hope that it does end up being compatible. Moving on to the game that is coming to Steam. Just a couple weeks ago, Square Enix announced a new business plan. They said that they were going to aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PCs. This is notable because Square has had quite a history of timed platform exclusive titles. Notably, of course, there's the Final Fantasy series that has had timed exclusives on PlayStation for games like FF7 Remake, FF16, and most recently FF7 Rebirth. Notably, 2 out of 3 of those games have had reportedly disappointing sales, with many people pointing the finger at that exclusivity model in the first place. What's worse, there has been one series of games developed by Square Enix that was starting to look like it was not just a timed exclusive, but a full exclusive, and we were never going to see it on our preferred platform. I'm talking, of course, about the Kingdom Hearts series, which came over to PC 4 years ago, but has been since locked to the Epic Games Store. Well, it seems it has now been freed from its shackles because all 3 titles are coming to Steam on June 13th. The first title is Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 Remix, which is essentially 4 games and 2 movies. That one includes Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2, so it's likely a must-buy for those that grew up on the PS2 classics or want to start this series from the very beginning. On Epic, that game currently retails for $50, but no word yet if there will be a permanent or temporary discount when it comes to Steam. The second title is Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, which is 3 experiences that serve as a prologue to Kingdom Hearts 3, and of course the final title is Kingdom Hearts 3 plus the Remind DLC. Finally, there's going to be a bundle for all 3 of these. That bundle is called Kingdom Hearts Integrum Masterpiece. Again, no word on price yet. That bundle is only $90 on the Nintendo Switch, but sadly, the Switch port contains cloud versions of that game, so it's not clear if pricing for PC is going to be similar to that or it's going to have its own price. Interestingly, and perhaps more importantly, James Galizio, a writer for RPG Site, has credible intel that Square is specifically looking into improving the Steam Deck compatibility for these ports. On Twitter, he said, "A few months back, I heard some rumbling from a source that Square Enix brought a team to improve Steam Deck compatibility for these ports. They weren't 100% sure about the validity at that time, but they did mention June/July being the potential release date, so I believe it." In its current state on the Epic Games Store, the Kingdom Hearts series is somewhat playable on the Steam Deck. There are notable issues, including playing cutscenes, some of which can be fixed by sort of patching those video files. However, if Square Enix is taking the time to actually fix this and improve compatibility for the deck, then that is going to be huge, because this is certainly a series that many people would love to play on the Steam Deck. Next up, It Takes Two is going all in on Steam features with their latest patch. They made a tweet that said, first off, the game is now Steam native, and that means that you can directly play with your Steam friends. You no longer need the EA app, so that is awesome. You no longer need that to play the game. I love that. Secondly, it's now Steam Deck verified, so they really are paying attention to the Steam Deck here. I love to see that, and I love to see those launchers being removed for Steam releases. That seems to be a common thing we're seeing. Even Rogue Prince of Persia, that game, even though it's not developed by Ubisoft internally, it is really nice to see that that game released published by Ubisoft and does not require the Ubisoft launcher, and even has Steam features like Steam Cloud Saves and Steam Achievements. I really love to see that. Finally, I'm going to mention Celico here. There have been so many good games that are releasing, a lot of things that I'm playing on the Steam Deck, but the most recent and most interesting release that I've been playing is Celico. That is out in early access, but it has 31 levels right now, so it is a chunky early access release. I am really happy to be playing this right now. This game, along with Animal Well, are two games that I would highly recommend to any Steam Deck player. I think you're going to enjoy it. I think you're going to love it. This one is more of a boomer shooter. It's kind of Doom meets Fear with a lot more fast-paced, high-action kind of feel to it. It's really fun. I hope you pick it up. At least add it to your wish list, if not. And finally, the last thing we should talk about is Attack of the Clones. There are so many PC handhelds right now. I'm going to tell you about 4 in particular so that you're aware of them and you can pick up whatever you think is most interesting to you. First, of course, is the ROG Ally X. We just had previews of that go live from Linus Tech Tips, Retro Game Core, The Fox, and more. The ROG Ally X is geared more towards an enthusiast audience. It comes out at $800. It's 24 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage. It also has an 80 watt-hour battery, so it literally doubles the battery life. But outside of that, it is a very similar device to the existing ROG Ally because it has the same Z1 Extreme processor, so you're not going to get more power out of the ROG Ally X. And in that way, I don't think it's something that you absolutely need. Of course, if you already have an Ally, if you already have a Steam Deck, but it might be something that you're interested in if you really want the 24 gigs of RAM or you really want the 80 watt-hour battery. And of course, if you're willing to deal with all of the Asus stuff going on right now. The Zotac Zone is fairly interesting, if nothing else, for the dual trackpads, just like the Steam Deck. I think also interestingly, those analog sticks are symmetric, which is pretty different for most of the PC handhelds we've been seeing outside of the Steam Deck itself. Also, for those analog sticks, they have these wheels that might be used for adjusting volume or adjusting screen brightness. They're right there on the analog stick, so you can just turn them or dial them to adjust either of those things. That's really interesting. Zotac is a company that's known for their mini PCs, and this handheld is going to be sporting an 8840U processor. It's going to have 120 Hz refresh rate, 7-inch FHD AMOLED display, and it comes out later this year. I think this one's pretty interesting. I'm going to be really curious to see how those trackpads perform. That's going to be my #1 test. But in addition to the ROG Ally X and the Zotac Zone, there is also a new rumored Lenovo Legion Go. This is the Lenovo Legion Go Mini. There's not much detail to go on for this device other than it should be priced cheaper than the existing Lenovo Legion Go. That has led people to believe that this is going to use a cheaper chipset, probably the Ryzen Z1, which is the underpowered sister to the Z1 Extreme. If that is in fact the case, then it's going to be hard for me to recommend this because I just don't see Z1 handhelds really being worth the cost of entry when you can get a Z1 Extreme handheld or you can get a Steam Deck. Finally, the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus is a follow-up to the MSI Claw that has been announced just 3 months after the release of the MSI Claw. MSI continues to be the most bewildering of these companies. They are once again going with an Intel chip, this time a not yet specified Lunar Lake processor. This is also an 8-inch display. I have no idea what to expect from this, but obviously my hopes are not particularly high when it comes to these Intel processors. That said, this is also going to be sporting an 80 watt-hour battery, just like the ROG Ally X. I guess they wanted to join Asus in that. So I'm curious to see how this all shakes out. But again, I can't say my hopes are too high. Let me know what you think. This is going to do it for today's episode. Thanks for joining me. I know it's been a while since I've been able to make a Deck News Roundup, but I'm always happy to make these. Hopefully you enjoy them. Hopefully you are having a wonderful week. Until next time, Deck Gang out. Goodbye.